The weighted dip is one of the most effective exercises for building a strong, muscular upper body. And it's also a movement gaining popularity in competitive settings, so very understandably, more people want to overload it and lift some heavy weights. In this video, I'll show you how to optimize your technique so you can perfect both the setup and the execution. Let's get into it. As the very first step, you want to set up or find a dip bar that allows you to fully straighten out your body and to keep your legs vertically beneath you. If you're setting up on a rack like me, then you can adjust the height so the bars align with your lower chest for the ideal position. This straight body alignment won't change the primary movers of the exercise, but it helps reduce any swinging when you lean forward, and it makes it easier to control the weight plates. Next, you want to depress your shoulder blades. This involves pressing against the P-bars with straight arms, as if moving your shoulders away from your ears. Doing this activates the rhomboids, lats, lower traps, and other muscles that function as stabilizers. This is important because a stable base allows you to efficiently transfer force into the P-bars, and it also reduces the risk of injury. Without it, the collarbones get painfully compressed in the bottom, and imbalances can also put the shoulder in positions with the risk of impingement. So always aim to keep your shoulder blades depressed in the weighted dip. Besides the depression for stability, you also want to roll the shoulders slightly forward, softly rounding your upper back. This protracts and moves the shoulder blades away from each other, which tucks the chest into a closed position in contrast to it sticking up and out. What this does is that it activates the serratus muscle for extra stability, and it also distributes the weight so you're not putting excessive stress on the shoulder joints. Both of these corrections shouldn't be extreme, and a slight protraction and depression is just fine for recruiting the extra muscle involvement. And keep in mind that you can still use bodyweight dips to work in different positions if you want to highlight a specific muscle group. But when progressively adding weight, we want the optimal position that keeps us safe while lifting the heaviest amount of weight. Next is the hand placement. If your dip bars are angled like mine, or if you have a dip station with adjustable width, then you have the option to choose how wide you want your hands. This can have quite an impact on your dip, so finding the optimal placement and being able to replicate it every workout is important. To find your width, you can measure the length of your forearm plus 2 fingers. This will work for most people, but if you prefer to go a little wider, add a finger or two and remove one if you want a narrower grip. Somewhere within this range is optimal, and this is an easy way to get it right each time. After you've found your width and you grab onto the P-bar, you want to avoid the common mistake of bending the wrist. To get a strong and sustainable wrist placement, you want a neutral grip, and to get this you can place your thumb in the middle of the P-bar, keep that wrist placement, and then wrap your thumb around the bar. By keeping this wrist position, you're quickly improving the efficiency of your dip because you allow the force from the chest, triceps and shoulders to travel through the forearms and into the bars. Next is a tip that ties all the previous steps together, and that is to enter the dip from an elevated surface or a step-off platform. This is a better alternative than pressing into the starting position, which not only wastes energy, especially when going heavy, but also makes it more difficult to make micro adjustments. The elevated surface allows you to make the scapula, width and wrist corrections beforehand, and then directly step into the top position while applying these technical cues. We are almost ready to start the dip, but we need to do one more thing, and that is to increase tension throughout the body. There are 2 steps to this. First, you want to do a proper brace, which involves taking a deep breath into the stomach. You still want to avoid puffing up your chest, so to get the right position every time, you can fully exhale to empty your stomach and maintain that flexed position as you breathe in again. And as the second step, you want to actively press your legs or feet against the weight plates. This engages your core, glutes and tightens everything up, preparing your body for the lift. But to fully utilize this technique, you'll need a dip belt with a daisy chain or a rope that allows you to lower the weight plates. The one I'm using here is from Carnation, and I've put the link in the description. Alright, now you have the perfect setup, so we can begin descending into the dip. Using the standard competition rules, the hips need to come below the P-bars and the shoulders should break 90 degrees. So that's what I recommend practicing in your trainings. From the top position, lean forward and feel the stretch in the chest and the front delts. The forward lean prevents a weak position with excessive strain on your shoulders, triceps and elbows. But avoid leaning too far forward, as this limits your hip depth. Instead, aim for a slight curved motion like this example, where your shoulders move almost straight down in the bottom. As the shoulders drop, make sure to descend the hips at roughly the same rate. If your shoulders drop too fast, you'll will just curl into a ball, or in the opposite case where the hips sink too low, you will get an inefficient rep. A helpful cue for some lifters is to slightly drive the hips back before descending, creating a more vertical movement pattern. Others prefer to drive the hips back as they initiate the movement, and both approaches work, so find what suits you best. As you lower yourself, actively focus on staying tight and really feel the engagement from the chest and the shoulders. Make sure to keep this tension in the bottom, as this helps generate power when pressing back up. If you find yourself losing tension, which is quite common in the bottom, I recommend practicing paused reps with lighter weights until you get it down. When you've hit the depth markers and it's time to press back up, you can aim to follow the same path upwards, but you don't need to overcomplicate this process. You've done all the preparations, and if you stay tight as you press straight up, the body will naturally return to the top position. For competitive athletes, breaking form slightly, such as arching to reduce range of motion, is acceptable for squeezing out those last kgs. However, for most people, it's better to maintain the tucked control position throughout the dip. Another technique used among high-level dippers is to quickly raise the head as the concentric begins. The body naturally follows the head, and this is a way to generate extra momentum from the bottom. But again, this won't really add to the benefits or the quality of the exercise, so prioritize your goals when choosing whether or not to do this. Good luck trying out these tips. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one.